Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the 3rd and 20 Dynasty Podcast. I'm JT, joined by the usual crew of Jake, Frank, Lounis, and we're off. The offseason has kicked off and in a dramatic, crazy way. So it started off, we're recording on Tuesday. So, I'm sure everyone already knows what the news is, but started off Tuesday morning. Aaron Rodgers signs what's reportedly going to be a huge deal, like a $200 million, $50 million a year deal with the Green Bay Packers, sticking with Green Bay. And we're like, oh, okay, that's pretty big news. What else is going to happen? Well, turns out Broncos are trading for Russell Wilson, and that trade includes Russ in a fourth to the Broncos for 2 firsts, 2 seconds, a fifth, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, and everyone's favorite, Drew Lock. So
let's go, Drew Lock, baby.
Also, we have
QB1.
Also, we have Calvin Ridley suspended for a year for gambling. So it's kind of a choose your own adventure of which one we want to kick off with. I think Russ is probably the biggest news and affects the most, like the most dynasty players. So I guess we should go with that first. I think I was on the record maybe 2 weeks ago saying I'm pretty sure Russ is going to stay in Seattle. I don't really see how he gets traded. Well, I was wrong. Lounis tweeted like 2 hours before the trade.
Yeah, did you see? I just felt like, oh.
Yeah. Lounis was like, yeah, Carson Wentz is going to be a Broncos. And then 2 hours later, Russ ends up on the Broncos. All right, so I guess we'll just start with the big name player first, Russ Wilson. Good, bad? I think I don't see anyone saying it's bad. Yeah, I don't think anyone said this is a bad move. He's now paired with Nathaniel Hackett as his head coach, coming from the Packers. He's got 2 young weapons in Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton as his receivers. So, not like DK. I think if we're ranking all 4 of the receivers in DK, Lockett, Sutton, Jeudy, I think DK is the clear best receiver of the 4. But then I think you can mix any of the 3 up. Just based on preference, essentially. And I don't see there being a noticeable difference. He's also got Javonte and Melvin Gordon in the backfield, and everyone's favorite,
maybe
Albert
maybe
O.
Melvin.
Yeah, maybe Melvin. All right. So Russ, I think it's consensus good for Russ. I haven't seen it. I don't think there's been many contrarian opinions that it's bad for us. I can't imagine how it would be. Let's move to the outside weapons now. We got Jeudy and Sutton. Also feels like you're getting the upgrades. I think this is just keep it simple, like good for both these guys. Where it gets super interesting is we have Noah Fant moving to Seattle and Albert O staying in Denver. And I think that's what most people are focused on in terms of the dynasty outlook for any of these players. And I don't know about you guys. I had Albert O kind of just as like he was free off waivers, and I have Noah Fant in a lot of my leagues because I'm big on Noah Fant. And so it just immediately skyrocketing to the moon. You got a starting tight end out of nowhere. Do you think it's coach speak saying like we really like Albert O moving forward? Like they're just saying that to justify them trading away Noah Fant, who they took in the first round a couple of years ago, or do you think they truly believe Albert O is the future starting tight end for the Denver Broncos?
That's a good question. I'd feel pretty confident in saying he's going to be the starting tight end this season. I don't think it's anything where it's like, oh, he's going to be like our long-term answer where like I feel super confident about him long-term. But heading into next season, yeah, because I mean, he's going to be, well, it's also going to be tricky. I want to see how those targets play out between like him and like a Tim Patrick versus like who's really like the third option on that passing offense. But for this season, I feel good. Like all of a sudden now he's valuable and he's kind of like a week-to-week play, especially when it's like so many tight ends. It's kind of like you have no idea, like you're just praying for a touchdown. Like him playing with Russell Wilson will give like as good a chance as like a lot of the tight ends in that range.
So, I think Alberto obviously gets a bump here, but I've seen on Twitter and Reddit and all these places, people have now all of a sudden ranked Alberto as like a top 7 to 10 dynasty tight end.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
I didn't realize it was that high.
So, I think he's a good guy to be a bye week fill-in, maybe a flex play if in an emergency. But realistically, I just think he's going to be another Gerald Everett from what we saw last season in Seattle, where it's a very touchdown dependent, if anything, from the tight end position here. Obviously, Jeudy, Sutton, Gordon, Javonte, even Tim Patrick are going to dominate the targets here, and they all probably get a big boost from Russell Wilson, obviously. So I just don't really see a lot of targets left for Alberto. And on top of that, Russell Wilson historically really hasn't used his tight end, except for like Jimmy Graham had like 13 touchdowns one year or whatever it was. But like that's it. He doesn't historically, use the tight end a whole lot. I know he really hasn't had a good one in Seattle, but still, I just think these weapons on the outside are too good for him to ignore. And I think they're going to get the boost rather than Alberto. And if I could sell him, I absolutely would right now.
I mean, I really don't think you have to overanalyze the Alberto situation. To me, I see a guy that he has a ceiling. I understand he's an athletic dude. He looks good, but the guy hasn't really put up more than 700 yards ever in a season. So, like, why? I'm pretty sure college and the NFL. Don't necessarily quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure. Why am I all of a sudden betting on him to become a top 7 dynasty tight end when I can sell him around that fringe top 10 price? I feel like it happens every year with these tight ends. Listen, very rarely do you get a tight end that's really getting some hype unless they're a first round pick. I'm just going to sell and transition my assets into something less risky there.
I think if you're looking to take a flyer on a tight end, first off, you got to wait like a week or two for this to calm down, because I think whatever the price right now is for Albert O is probably too high, because the person's just got excited about the news. Whatever the price is probably too high. Now, if you're looking for a flyer kind of guy, I don't see anything wrong with taking him over the likes of, Jonnu and that kind of tier of tight end. But when you have to give up so much that you probably will have to give up for Albert O, that's where I do have concerns. I've been seeing people on Twitter say, like, trade Noah Fant for Albert, or trade Albert O for Noah Fant. And I saw Ryan McDowell, who's one of the biggest dynasty people in the space, like, who would you rather have in dynasty? And it was like 60-40 Albert O to Noah Fant. I still don't believe that's true.
Everyone's going. I've seen so many polls, a bunch of different dynasty.
That's insane.
Dude, people are going crazy. They're going crazy. I'm sorry. If I have them, I'm sending out off. I already sent out the bulk trade to everyone in my league.
For 1 second.
Yeah, no. If people are really thinking that, he's an easy sell, right? Like based off.
What was the offer, Frank? What are you trying to get?
I don't have Alberto in any of my leagues, so I don't really know what the price is, but I imagine some sort of second round pick. I might try for like a mid-second, early second. I saw someone
early second for Alberto.
Well, the thing is, I saw someone with a good amount of followers that I thought was like pretty established. Not necessarily. It's Twitter, bro.
Yeah.
He had Alberto ranked over TJ Hawkinson. So, like, to me, I'm just like, okay, too much hype. I'm just gonna sell. You're never gonna get this opportunity again. To me, obviously, Alberto, if he becomes insane, he becomes insane. But I think the consensus move is to sell.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, I brought it up like briefly in my initial point on it. Like, I think as just a receiving threat in general, I know slightly different positions. I think Tim Patrick is better than him. Like, I think Tim Patrick is probably going to end up with more targets than Alberto, and he's going to be kind of like that third guy. Like, Alberto, how I view it is like you're just kind of hoping for touchdowns. And that reason I said like he's higher is because Russell Wilson's going to throw probably the most touchdowns any Denver QB has since like Peyton Manning. But still, I didn't realize it was that high online.
Well, someone who's interesting, real quick before we move on, is Hamler. I mean, his price, I don't think I've seen anything about him. Listen, I'm not the biggest Hamler guy. I wasn't coming out of the draft, but I will admit that I think it was the beginning of this season that he tore his ACL. Before he tore it, I thought he looked pretty good. And definitely improved as a player. I don't really know what the ACL is going to do to him, but someone kind of on the for free radar, if possible, you're making a trade, you see he's on the roster, you think you can get him for nothing. If the hype hasn't gotten to him, maybe. But he's just someone to keep on your radar.
I like that one. I think for like you said, like a free price, I think that's a good target.
Yeah. Also, really quickly before we move on for the trade, I know we kind of analyzed that we just think that the Broncos are a better situation than the Seahawks. I'm just really curious to see what the coaching staff and kind of from a philosophical standpoint, the Broncos organization, it's not one of these kind of conservative organizations. You really got that at Seattle, like conservative, older head coach outside of the Jamal Adams. I mean, they do weird shit in Seattle. There's something in the air. Like now you go into an organization that seems very committed to going all in, and they have the offensive staff in place. Are we going to be able to see Russ's best season yet, or is that taking the bait on the hype?
Best season, I don't know, but I think it's going to be one of his best seasons. Like I think this year, in terms of especially his fantasy outlook, it's going to be one of the best totals, assuming obviously he stays healthy and everything. One of the best seasons. I don't know if I can go number one though, because he had some insane seasons a couple years ago.
The side. Go ahead, JT.
Well, his 2014 year, he rushed 118 times for 850 yards and 6 rushing touchdowns. Like I don't think we're seeing that.
You won't see that.
But I do think it'll be a good year overall. Just something that I want to throw out there about the Albert O thing, real quick for you guys is Jimmy Graham when he went to Seattle. People think it wasn't that great of a mesh. Which
he had a really productive year 1 year, I think.
2 years. Jimmy Graham got injured his first year with Seattle, and then his next 2 years he finished as the tight end 4 both times. Now Albert O isn't Jimmy Graham, but I think when people are saying, like, I think you're taking the bait if you're saying like, oh, the Seattle offense as a whole the past 2 years, like the tight end position general just got 100 targets split between like 4 people. Like, how is Albert O going to be that good? If he's not even getting 100 targets when like the 10th tight end in fantasy was getting 100 targets. I think that's taking the bait. I just think he's an okay flyer. Now back to Russ. I think Russ will have a good year this year. I think he's probably going to get taken too high in fantasy drafts at this point. He's going to be in that tier of players where like Mahomes happens every year, Lamar happens every year, where they're getting taken like the 2nd, 3rd round, and it's like, well, why aren't you just taking running backs and receivers? This is like non-super flex fantasy redrafts.
We're talking about fantasy redraft.
Yeah, hold on. But
I get the point.
Where I'm going with that is we're gonna start like overhyping Russell Wilson, where I think his points over expected are not going to be like Dak is losing Amari Cooper. Who knows if they go and draft a receiver? I don't think his season's going to be that much different than Dak's. Like, I think they're going to be pretty close, is my current prediction.
I think Wilson will have more.
Yeah, so isn't Russell Wilson a lot cheaper than Dak Prescott?
That's where you get the age factor into all of it and everything.
Yeah.
Although,
I've got tons of Russell Wilson in my leagues, and I'm kind of chilling with him. I like keeping him.
Russell Wilson is
32.
You got to put on a late second on top of him to get to Dak, according to.
Okay, fine.
I want to say something real quick. How do you guys feel about DK now?
I was going to bring up that point next. Is I'm curious to see what this Seattle offense looks like next year. I think they probably are going to go back to more of the ground and pound that we've seen from Pete Carroll that he likes to do, and try to just run Chris Carson and Rashad Penny as much as possible. Assuming Carson's back healthy and Penny can stay healthy.
And I think he's
well, I think they want to bring him back, and I think they will. So I think it's a big if, but I'm really curious to see how this offense evolves, because I don't think we're going to see what we've seen from them the past few years and letting Russ really air the ball out. Obviously, he won't be there, but I don't think they're going to let the next quarterback do that. So I want to see what happens to them. I think there's going to be less targets to be had in that offense as a whole.
I think the problem is that halfway through the season, that coaching staff is going to get canned, and now it's just going to be fucking. I don't even know
if Pete Carroll's going to come back for next season now.
As in, come
or this upcoming one.
I think that was part of it. I think if Russ was going to go, Carroll was going to stay. I think that's kind of.
But why?
And that's the point. No, and the other thing I was going to say about Seattle's offense, it's so hard to predict now with DK. Like, first off, if I have DK, I'm not panic selling or selling somewhat though at all. He's an easy hold for me. But with their offense, it's just so impossible to predict because you have no idea how they're going to go with quarterback. I think now with the 9th pick in the draft, they're one of those people that are now in contention to possibly draft a rookie quarterback in that spot. So how do you feel if a Pickett or Willis is taken there, or maybe they go free agency like a Jimmy Garoppolo, which would actually be funny. He stays in the division. But that's what makes it so hard to predict, right? Or if they go Drew Lock, that's like a whole other shit show.
I don't think it really is hard to predict because, okay, yeah, he might not have like the wide receiver one in the league upside because you just don't think he's going to score that many touchdowns now because their offense is probably going to fucking suck. But the fact of the matter is that this guy's should be getting targets. Like it doesn't matter who you are as the quarterback. I mean, who else are you going to throw the ball to, especially if Lockett gets traded? Like, I think Lockett right now is the more concern if he stays on Seattle. His efficiency with Russ was so high. Okay, yeah, I don't know what the hell you do about it, but yeah, you're concerned there. DK, to me, how is he not going to be getting tons of targets? As long as the guy can at least put it in the general vicinity, I'm not worried about DK. It's not like DK had a crazy year last year, but if you give him 150, 160 targets, he's going to be a low-end wide receiver one again, I think. I don't worry. I think that the quarterback throwing the receiver the ball a lot of times is really overrated to a certain extent. Yeah, obviously, if in extremes, if you have shit-stained McGee who can't complete a pass, that's a problem, but...
Well, all right, let's just do this.
I mean, even on the... Just as a little game, even as, like, the top-end guy, and Cooper Kupp last year went from getting the ball from Goff to Stafford, and he went from, a good high-end wide receiver 2 to wide receiver 1 in the league.
Yeah, but that's the thing I was saying, is that your upside is capped, but as long as you get 150 targets, you're good. You can easily produce as a low-end wide receiver 1 on a points per game margin.
Do you guys know? Okay. I'm going to do the math right. It's going to be live math, some real interesting stuff for you. So Russell Wilson was out weeks 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's when we had Geno Smith, right? So
yeah.
Over the course of that time, DK Metcalf averaged, he got 17.25 points per game over that 4-game stretch. Guess what he did during the season? What was his season points per game?
Lower than that.
Like 16 and a half, 15, somewhere in there?
It was 12.
Wow.
It was 12. So I'm not that concerned. I'm not concerned about Russell Wilson moving on. I mean, Drew Lock would suck if that's actually a starting quarterback. I just can't imagine he is. But even if it's Drew Lock, I think DK will be fine.
Well, what's interesting is that from the vibes of the organization, it seems like DK Metcalf is like one of 4 players they're actually committed to in keeping around. Hey, we don't want to get rid of DK Metcalf. He's the guy. Obviously, you might take this short-term bump, but who knows? I mean, we've seen players finish well with average to slightly below average, and even sometimes below average quarterbacks. If you're one of these big behemoth types of guys, I mean, D-Hop, how many quarterbacks did he get?
Tom Savage, baby.
Yeah, just the most random people. So I think that if you're panicking, don't panic. I'm not saying don't buy or sell them, but the panic is completely unjustified. Let's go into some other stuff, though.
Quick poll before we move on. Last thing. Who's the Seahawks quarterback next season? Go. Just around the room. JT, who you got? Who's their quarterback?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot. The quarterback, I'll just go way out of pocket here. Jalen Hurts.
Whoa, wait.
Next question. Wait. Lounis, who you got?
Yep.
I was gonna go bold and say Malik Willis.
Okay, Frank.
It's the Seahawks, so you got to throw in something really wacky. I'm gonna go Desmond Ridder.
Oh, okay.
They would be the type to draft.
Yeah, that's such a Seattle pick.
That would be. They
won't even take him with the first. They'll pick him in the second.
Absolutely.
Yes, Jason.
I have Carson Wentz in Seattle next.
Oh,
I can see that.
Carson Wentz going all around the fucking globe, man.
Yeah, I mean, his handoff game is top in the league.
I was gonna say, think about now that Rodgers and Wilson are settled, like the non-rookie QB options. It's Wentz, Jimmy G, and Trubisky. Am I forgetting anyone? Pretty much that.
That's for the most part those three. All right. Moving on to Aaron Rodgers re-signing with the Packers. It started to get hinted more and more that was probably going to be the case. I would have never believed it I don't know, even like 4 months ago, I probably wouldn't have believed it. But Aaron Rodgers resigns with the Packers. Devontae Adams is franchise tagged, so he's going to stay. It's just they have to sign him to a deal too. They're going to need to sign Devontae to a deal too, because otherwise I think he could hold out because he's probably going to make way more than what the cap is, whatever the franchise tag is. So if I'm Devontae Adams, I'm probably demanding like you sign me to a long-term deal.
I think that real quick.
Yeah.
Let me take this, JT. I think the big question for this segment is: does this mean longevity for Rodgers? Are you now not worried about him retiring next year or doing something weird because he signed this extension? Do you think because if you think like, oh, 100%, I'm getting at least 3 or 4 years, I think that now Rodgers' value is slightly bumped in my eyes because of, I mean, the beginning of this season, there was a little bit of in the back of your head worry about retirement and potentially for next year. But does that mean any guaranteed longevity now?
It's not guaranteed at all. I'd say I feel a little bit better, but like not at the point where I feel safe. And especially if at any point over these next 4 years, if he wins the Super Bowl, I could easily see him just leaving after that. Like if on year 2 of this deal he wins it, I could see him retiring after that. Especially he said he considered retirement this offseason.
So Lounis, are you taking him or Tua? The Tua test.
Oh God, why Tua?
It's the Tua test. This was usually good with Baker Mayfield, but he got crapped on till so I'm just gonna slide Tua in now.
Definitely a month straight of us talking Baker Mayfield, who's not relevant at all to any of this.
Oh, that's tough.
I'll
take Rodgers because I don't think he's going to win the Super Bowl. He just always chokes in the NFC Championship.
Yeah, I'm taking Rodgers too. I'd rather just sure, Tua could improve with Mike McDaniel. And,
it's close.
Well, are we talking straight up, or are we talking the difference in value? Because if I'm talking, I can get Tua and a pick. I probably would take that.
That's different.
Well, what pick? What pick are we talking?
I don't know. Whatever is fair and keep trade.
Early third. How about that?
Aaron Rodgers for Tua.
Oh, so here's the thing.
The balance is 305. There you go.
If you promise me,
I'd rather Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
if you promise me Tua would stay healthy, I think I'd pick Tua. But that's like one thing that makes me.
Tua and the third. You get a third as well.
305.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, use it wisely because I'm taking Aaron Rodgers.
I'm taking.
That could be Alvin.
I mean, I'm taking Rodgers.
I'll take the guy that just won back-to-back MVPs.
Albert O is worth more in the second range now.
Well, I'm saying that's where he was picked
crazy.
when drafts were coming.
All right.
He got picked.
Tua and Albert O or Rodgers.
I mean, other than that, it's the same old shenanigans for Rodgers. There's really nothing else.
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought this was going to be the most controversial thing that was going to happen because this came down. Was this just yesterday? Just yesterday on Monday, Calvin Ridley got handed a 1-year suspension for gambling. I personally think it's the league had to do it. It's gambling and everything. I think people could disagree, but let's just focus on the dynasty. Yeah, let's just focus on the dynasty stuff. Like Calvin Ridley out for another year. Obviously, it hurts Matt Ryan. I don't think it necessarily helps Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts was going to get whatever amount of targets he's going to get, whether Calvin Ridley was there or not. I guess it opens the door for like Russell Gage or Zacchaeus or anything, but to me, I think it's solely a Calvin Ridley thing. It's slightly a bump, a down.
I mean, I think what we could see here. What we could see here is the Falcons taking a wide receiver with some pretty solid draft capital. Yeah. I don't think it'll be a first-round pick, but I would not be surprised to see them use a day 2 pick on a wide receiver here, a pretty solid one. Whoever that ends up being, but I think whoever ends up in Atlanta as that next wide receiver up, they had Julio, they had Calvin Ridley. That next wide receiver up, I think they will have a solid role in this offense moving forward, and is a guy that people are going to probably overhype a little bit.
What I think is interesting now, I remember I was on Reddit like later yesterday, and I saw like one of the top things was obviously on like the Dynasty community, the Ridley news. I saw people who have Ridley, they said they'd take any second. And so if I had 212 and I'm trying to like, when do I take? Okay, he won't play for a season, but like,
Then you have a
he'll be able to
30-year-old
come
wide
back.
receiver that hasn't played in 2 seasons. Good luck. Next question.
He'll be 29, right? He's 27 right now.
Lounis, let me pose you this though. Knowing what we know about the Dynasty community and what we've seen over players that didn't play for a full year, do you not think that this price could go lower?
That's a good question.
Like, yeah, they're desperate now, but what if we wait? What if we wait?
wait. So Frank, are you with me on it? Like,
I want Ridley. Like, I think that Ridley
like,
could be a good buy.
That's what, if you can get him for me, if I can get him for like 212 or 301 or whatever that may be, I'm willing to wait a year for him to come. He's that talented. When he was playing, he was one of the best receivers in football. I'm not saying like obviously like a top 5 level or anything, but he was a premier receiver. And he was.
Yeah, the thing is, people are still saying
that. Do you know how many times Calvin Ridley has finished as a top 20 wide receiver?
I think just once, but that's a little bit of bait because he got hurt a couple years in a row.
I mean, if you don't count last season, he played 16, 13, and 15 games. So we always played more than 13 games. And he only finished a wide receiver 20 or better once.
Yeah, but wasn't that like top
like
5?
The year before.
It was receiver 5, exactly.
I don't know. I'm probably not going out and buying Calvin Ridley because I just think like.
Well, I'll ask. Would you rather have like 210, 211, or Calvin Ridley?
If someone offered me,
JT is like whatever pick has David Bell. That's the lowest they'll go.
David Bell is before 210, 211 easily for me.
That'd be an early.
Unless he's not drafted in the first 3 rounds. I mean, I just keep making that caveat. But all right, this is how I'm looking at it, right? If I have Calvin Ridley, I'm not accepting 210 or 211 for Calvin Ridley. But would I give up 210 or 211 for Calvin Ridley? Also, probably not. I just like I'm just
Mixon paradox.
I'm just stuck in. Yeah, I'm gonna be stuck in my ways here and be like, I don't want to give up this pick, but I also don't want to trade for that pick.
You say that, but there are people doing it. Like I saw, like
I'm sure there are.
Yeah, like I felt like that was like kind of the common consensus agreement on that thread. Like, oh yeah, you got a second rounder, great job.
I just think, yeah,
yeah, those are the same leagues where you're getting a first for Gabe Davis.
I just think like he's gonna be older. Like we still don't know where he's gonna end up.
We don't know when he's gonna be back. Like
I gotta assume it's going to be a year.
I'll assume the start of the 2020.
But
I mean, like he was the same guy that just sat out a full season basically.
Yeah,
for what? No one knows. No one knows what's going on.
I think
he did. The way he was tweeting post the announcement, was inferring like I'm gonna play again once this is done. Yeah.
But the thing is, where will he be playing again? I think is the bigger question. I don't think it's going to be Atlanta. I think the plan was he was never going to be playing in Atlanta this year. Now where will he be a year from now? I don't know. I just think you have a better chance if 210 211's raw. Like maybe I would trade 210 or 211 for Calvin Ridley. I would have to see how the board looks. But like in that mid-second, like there are definitely going to be prospects that can certainly increase their value and be worth more than Calvin Ridley come like mid-season. Now, well, I'm looking.
Hold on. Robert Miller, you guys got to hear this. Which player's hands scare a franchise more? Deshaun Watson's hands after the masseuse, or Calvin Ridley's hands placing 1,500 on the Falcons to win in a parlay. I can add.
You know what? I'm gonna still say Watson scare me more.
Yeah, I don't know. No comment.
Wow.
There. All right.
I feel I kind of was interested. Like they never announced if that parlay hit or not. I mean, because the Falcons won the game. No, they won because it was against the Jags. He's like, oh, they're beating the Jags.
Was it a money line? Who knows if it was even money line? It might have been spread. But where's I gonna go with that? Side note: there's supposed to be some Deshaun Watson news coming soon, where he's
Friday.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. That just reminded me of that.
Yeah, Friday.
All right, Calvin Ridley. I don't know. You guys had me curious though, looking into the Falcons, and they do have 2 second-round picks. So
Yeah,
that's
and
a
they have
prime spot to
only
take a
Frank
receiver.
Darby under contract right now at receiver. So they got to get someone. All
My
right, let's
boy
get on to
David
some
Bell.
other stuff
He
though, because
might be
this is a topic that I found interesting that was clearly slid under the rug because of today's news.
I forgot about when I was doing the doc.
Eagles
Mike
or Kenny
Williams
Pickens
just re-signed with the Chargers. It was a chonker of a deal. It was like 3 years, 60 mil, 40
Yeah.
guaranteed. So they kind of went with the high guaranteed money. I mean, it was a big ass contract to begin with to keep Mike Williams around. That may have kind of killed the buy Mike Williams train that I was on a little bit.
I know, because I was gonna say, you actually, credit to you, you called it, because you were saying, I forgot however many pods ago, how like you saw that everyone was assuming he was gonna leave in free agency, so you actually thought he was like a sneaky buy right now because you thought the Chargers would resign him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering if this increases his price. I also just think
Yeah.
he's a good buy because you're getting a guy that finished as a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2 on the season and points per game at what? He's not worth a first-round pick, I don't think, on keep trade cut, at least before the contract. He might be now.
The issue I have with Mike Williams, and it's the issue I've always had, is consistency. He's always been a guy to put up
Yeah.
those monster games, and then he just has 3 weeks in a row where he puts
Yeah,
up
but that's
under
like
5
half the
points.
receivers in football.
Yeah.
No, it's not. No,
Would you
it's
rather
not.
have Mike Williams or Tyler Lockett? Assuming
yeah, those
age
are the
wasn't an
two-
issue.
Mike
Those
Williams.
are the 2 big boom bust wide receivers that you see in fantasy
Yeah, but
football every year.
and then Tyler Lockett was super fucking consistent last year. So, like, to me, if people are arguing about consistency, I could care less. Because, to be honest, I might rather have the boom bust from my receiver spot. Like, unless you're like the top 3 receivers, then if you're going for consistency, go buy a running back or a quarterback or something.
I think the real question is, was this a fraudulent year by Mike Williams, or is this something that we can expect? Because while it's in, sorry, Lounis, 1 second.
There you go.
While Jake's right, like he was super inconsistent. Like you live and die with the like you'll take that wide receiver production if he's a later, wide receiver 12, wide receiver 15 on the year, whatever he was. You'll take that, obviously. You'll live with the highs and the lows. But he had 129 targets last year when his his next highest was 90 2 years prior. Like, are we seeing 30 more targets? Is he going to regress back to what his average was? Because before then he was averaging about 85 targets.
No, I don't think. I think he's a lock for around 120 targets. If I'm going to be a gambling man, I'd much rather bet on him getting 120 than getting 90.
Okay, but here's the issue I have with Mike Williams, and it's just from weeks 1 to 5, he was wide receiver 2. From the rest of the season, he was wide receiver 80. He was very not good down the stretch of the season. He was bad, actually. So, like, it's not just boom bust. It's like he had a few very good games in the beginning of the season, and then he was bad.
Yeah,
So,
that's
like,
fine. But he was also playing through a couple injuries, and I'm pretty sure was questionable basically every week. So, like, I'll just buy the point. Like, okay, whether you want to say, oh, it's beginning of the season, he can't be consistent or not. To me, points are points. And on a per game basis, he's a low end wide receiver 1. He got 120 targets. He's tied to a great offense. And to me, great offense equals good wide receiver 2s and little bullshit like that. So, like, you look at, especially last year, the top offenses all produced, for the most part, multiple wide receivers in like the top 24, top 30. I think that the Chargers offense is another offense like that I want to buy into. This is an offense that passes the ball a fuck ton. I want receivers that are good on the offenses that pass the ball a lot, especially when I don't need to pay a first round pick to get it.
Well, let me throw this to you, and we could transition into the next topic too, because this is what I ask. Who would you rather have, Mike Williams or Amari Cooper?
Mike Williams.
Amari Schmoo.
Well, why I'm asking is Amari Cooper is rumored to get cut by the Cowboys, so we don't know where Amari Cooper is going to be. But they're currently the I think the keep trade cut started to reflect Amari Cooper getting cut. That news
Actually-
it hasn't reflected Mike Williams resigning yet. So Amari Cooper is a little above Mike Williams currently, but I think their value is going to be very similar.
So
A couple days
that's
from
the because my first instinct was Mike Williams, just because the uncertainty of where Amari Cooper ends up, if he ends up on like a shitty offense to just overpays him. But like the next thought came to my head of like, where do I see Amari Cooper ending up? And then the first team that came in my head was the Patriots, and I was like, I actually think he'd be a really good fit with Mac Jones in that offense. So now I'm kind of torn between the two.
I don't know. I don't see Amari Cooper going to New England.
JT, you see it as a Patriots
I
fan?
might rather have
now.
Cooper.
Could see it.
I
could see
definitely
it, but I
rather
think
have Cooper.
Am I on an island? I think
What?
I'd rather have Mike Williams.
I
one
lean Mike
thing that-
Williams, but the
Yeah.
Patriots thing has me
The
conflicted.
one thing that I like about Mike Williams is that I think that we've seen him get better as a receiver at this stage of his career compared to the beginning, even though I'm pretty sure year 2, he had a very good year. I think that the Mike Williams last year, and I think the stats show it, was easily the best Mike Williams we've seen. And he's playing at an age where if you look at the bell curve, 26, 27 is prime production age for wide receivers. So I would love to invest in a wide receiver at that age period rather than, I mean, Cooper's right around there too. I'm pretty sure he's 27. It's just,
Yeah, they're both 27, I think.
Yeah.
I'm pulling up there.
I think I'd rather have Cooper, but I agree, like, whoever's cheaper. Yeah, Skull Dynasty's right. The answer is whoever you can get
Whoever's
cheaper. I kind of
cheaper,
agree
yeah.
with that.
Yeah, I agree
But
with
if
that
I
too.
had to pick one, I think I'm still going Cooper, even though I've all of a sudden liked Mike Williams now.
Amari Cooper is 4 months older than Mike Williams.
Real quick before we move on to the next subject, just because Parker asked it, so we could just a quick. You guys think Seahawks are the favorite for Watson? I don't think they're
No.
the favorite.
Dude, Watson, doesn't he have that no trade clause? Why the hell is he going to a team that's clearly rebuilding?
Well, would they be real if they went out and got Deshaun Watson? Are they rebuilders? Like,
Yeah, but if you're Watson and you saw what the hell just
Yeah, I
happened
mean,
with
you
Russell
try-
Wilson
In that division,
in this economy, come on.
in this economy,
well, I truly don't know how much. Like, well, we had have to see where Deshaun
I still
wants
think
to
the
go.
Panthers are the favorite for Watson.
Also, word in the street is those fucking massage parlor around Seattle just aren't
Oh
good.
my god!
So you really think he's going into that area?
I think
Come
we're
on.
hitting our Deshaun Watson quota for the
Yeah, that's enough.
episode.
All right,
Um,
franchise tags. We can run through these.
All right. Chris Godwin gets tagged. Feels like that's not really a surprise. It's
Yeah.
kind of weird that he's stuck on that team now without Tom Brady, but
We still
I
don't know. what
It
they're
doesn't
doing
really
at quarterback.
change.
Would you
Yeah.
have rather him hit the open market, Lounis?
It's so hard to know.
He could have chose his quarterback, basically. If he hit the open market, he could have chose his quarterback. So I think, most
But
like
I also think he would have just went to whoever team offered him the most. I feel like he was.
Yeah, but I don't
really
think that necessarily would have been a bad thing.
most times
Hospitality.
I'd say I'd want my receiver staying with the team, whatever team they're on. Like, they keep you for a reason. I think with Chris Godwin, like, I feel like easily the top receiver coming out of this free agency. You could make the argument for Allen Robinson or Juju, I guess, or Amari Cooper when he gets cut.
No, yeah, it's Godwin.
But I think I'd rather Godwin. So I think he would have had his cream of the crop kind of pick. Like, there would have been multiple teams looking to sign him, and I think he would have ended up in a good situation.
Yeah, but again,
So,
that's
I would have rather.
that's what you would have thought about Kenny Galladay last offseason.
Yeah, but Kenny
Hey,
Galladay,
hey,
I have him
hey.
in different. I've
Don't
Kenny.
you do that right now.
0 touchdowns.
Last
Yeah, that wasn't his fault.
last year was a weird market too, because people didn't know how COVID was going to fully affect the salary cap going forward.
I
And
just think
the
with,
receivers was weird. The whole
He's still getting paid, so
A lot of
did he
money.
lose?
A lot of money.
I also just don't think Kenny Galladay and Chris Godwin are
Godwin's a better receiver.
that similar in talent. Yeah, I think Chris Godwin's much more talented. I don't have much else to add on that. Like, it's whatever, I guess. It's status quo. Mike
I think
Gesicki
for
gets the
most of
tag.
these-
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, that
I mean,
kind of seems
Gesicki-
like a prove it thing.
Yeah,
Him-
I don't love that for Gesicki just because you would
him and
like to
Dalton
see him
Schultz.
get
I
Shield.
was gonna say you would have wanted him to get the long-term extension.
Him and Dalton Schultz, to me, both because Dalton Schultz also got the franchise tag. Both of those guys seem like a prove why we should sign you for whatever, however long.
I get more of the vibe though that the Dalton Schultz one was more in the vein of like, let's run it back, like because we don't have a lot of salary, especially in our later years, that we can have tied up to Dalton
Thanks, Zeke.
Schultz's. Like, let's just give him the tag. Whereas Mike Gesicki was legitimately more of like we don't know if we want to pay this guy long term at all. Not like, oh, we're just not going to have the money to do so.
I think Gesicki has a chance to get an extension. I'd be shocked if Schultz got like
I think it might be the
nice
opposite.
extension.
I
Unless
think
he signed for cheap.
I think the difference is you're going to see Gesicki want more closer to wide receiver money. He's going to want somewhere closer to wide receiver money, while Dalton Schultz was more of a tight end, I'd say. So
yeah, I think a stat came out today because Schultz is on the tight end tag, which is significantly less than the wide receiver tag, obviously. But he lines up at the actual tight end position and not in the slot, something like 15% of his snaps. Most 85% of his snaps or something close to that, he runs out of the slot. So I'm interested to see if he actually tries to get more out of the league.
Are you talking? Is that Gesicki or Schultz?
Yeah, Gesicki. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's why people were saying like, oh, Kyle Pitts is going to get a wide receiver designation, but like when you have Gesicki who's doing that for like only 15% lined up as tight end, and he's still a tight end. Like I don't see Kyle Pitts or changing wide receiver. Sorry for the distraction, but yeah, I just think these guys. You would have rather seen the extension, obviously. I'm not going out and buying either of these guys because I have to assume their price is slightly inflated, but I don't hate it either. Like I think it's just status quo for these guys as well.
I think it's good for Dalton Schultz because he's going to be tied into the offense he was at last year. No Amari Cooper now, so like you're thinking that he can definitely put up a similar role to what he did last year, which he was very good in. If you picked up Dalton Schultz, that was like a league-winning type of move because you probably picked him up for basically nothing. Devontae Adams gets the tag. That's like status quo kind of a move. Nothing changes there. No Rodgers moving, so that's big.
I think they're going to work out a long-term deal, though.
Same. I think since Rodgers signed for 4 years,
I think that's a consensus feel as well that they probably told the plan to Rodgers that's what they feel that they're going to do, and that he's on board with it. That's probably one of the ways they sold him. And then Njoku gets the tag. Is there anything moving there?
I don't know why they gave him the tag, to be completely honest. To give him 10, I think the tight end tag's 11, close to 12 million this year, and give that to Njoku to be a backup tight end just doesn't make sense.
Have you guys seen like the meme? It's like this like really nice car and like a shitty like house neighborhood. Yeah, I feel like that's like Nick Chubb in the Cleveland offense. It's just like terrible outside of Nick Chubb.
I've seen a lot of people on Brown's Twitter that are saying that Njoku was like very good for them last year, and he's totally worth the franchise tag.
He has the talent. I think he showed it when he came into the league. It's just ever since like his knee injury, he only really showed flashes and not the same consistency, even like when he first came into the NFL. If he can play like what he's shown in his flashes consistently, I believe it. I think the talent's there. It's like to have like a game where he looks like amazing. The next game he has like 2 catches for 11 yards. So
something to keep our eye on, because I see Robert Miller in chat saying saw Carolina was fielding calls for CMC, not sure what the asking price was. So I think what's interesting about that is like the Panthers reportedly looking to potentially trade CMC if the price is right. We were talking before the pod. Jake was saying that apparently the Giants offered Saquon in a deal for the Seahawks for Russell Wilson.
The Giants offered a big package to Seattle for Russ. It included 2 firsts, 1 second, 2 thirds, Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. I think that's pretty comparable to what they ended up taking in Noah Fant and those picks from Denver, but I guess Seattle really liked that package more.
So what I'm wondering though is, are we going to see big shakeups in the running back landscape? Because if the Giants are willing to move Saquon, we have the Panthers taking calls on CMC. I don't know. I think, Lounis?
Well, I was gonna say 2 things quick. One, I think with the Giants, I think part of that is maybe Seattle didn't want Russell Wilson still in the NFC. And then 2, McCaffrey, like as good as I feel like he's one of those where it's like if you're Carolina, you're just gonna have to end up holding him because what real value are you getting for a running back who's not like in his like first 2 years, 3 years or something. He's been injured the past 2 years. He's making 16 mil per. And like the offer that you're going to get from other teams, you're going to view as too low for what you think McCaffrey can do for your offense. So I'd be surprised if McCaffrey got traded.
I mean, I guess that's similar because I know the Giants were taking offers for Saquon other than trying to put him in this Russ package. But I think the best they could have got from a team was like a 4th round pick was the report.
Yeah.
So that's crazy to me. And obviously McCaffrey's price will be higher than that, and teams would give up more than a 4th for McCaffrey. But I imagine it's probably in the realm of like a 2nd round pick.
Well, the problem with Saquon is that it's a trade and sign where the Giants aren't going to sign him if they're trying to trade him. So it's almost like, okay, I'm trading him to get him a year earlier, right? That's more because if he's going to hit the open market anyway, you're not giving up first for him. If you know that a year from now he's going to be on the open market. McCaffrey, the deal's already signed. If you're thinking to yourself, okay, the running back market's increased with recent contracts and just the salary cap increasing, that's a little bit of a different story to me. And it also just depends on what do the Panthers want to sell him for, because the reports I've been hearing are multiple or are first plus. So like, am I going to be able to squeak out 2 seconds or something along the lines of that? Okay, then yeah, he'd be dealt. But if then the Panthers are like, no, we need like, when they say 1st round pick plus, they're thinking like, okay, actual 1st round pick, not pick 31 type 1st round pick. So there's so many variables that you don't really know until a deal gets done or a legit report comes out. All right, let's get into the combine.
Yeah. So Frank, what I think could be a helpful thing is, do we have on the RIS website yet? Do we have the rookie things? Yeah, because I think it'd be interesting to pull up their numbers if it's on there already. I'm not sure if it is or not.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'll just look them up. So who are we going into? I mean, the quarterbacks.
Let's start with well, let's look at the quarterbacks first because we could just talk about them real quick. So it was talked about in chat when we were talking about hands. We don't need to get into why we were. Kenny Pickett, tiny hands. I don't know. Apparently, it's concerning. 8.5-inch hands, which would be like the smallest hands out of any starting quarterback. I mean, that's not really the reason that I have an issue with Kenny Pickett. I think it's his lack of production until his 5th year, but I've said that before. He actually tested pretty athletic for a quarterback.
4'6", 40, 33.5-inch vert. Good broad jump. I have the relative athletic score. Apparently it's unofficial, but 9.24, pretty darn good. I feel like that was with a lot of the quarterbacks is that, I mean, it seems like the whole fucking combine, but a lot of the quarterbacks especially tested very well. Ritter tested very well.
Ritter ran like a 4.5, I think.
Yeah, so he was looking pretty good. I mean, Malik Willis just kind of balled out. He didn't test, right?
He didn't run, but he threw.
He didn't run, but yeah, he threw, and he looked. I mean, he had that one bomb throwing the ball.
Yeah,
apparently knocked out the interview. So it seems like the quarterbacks did nothing but potentially help their stock at the combine. Carson Strong has fallen off.
I'm kind of with JT on the Pickett. The hand, whatever I end up thinking of Pickett come like rookie drafts and everything, the hand size isn't going to be like a major thing or really any kind of real impact for me. More so just his play.
Yeah, I don't care. I mean, we were talking about this before the pod, but the common narrative is that the smaller hands will help you fumble. Like, okay, maybe that plays a little bit of an impact, but what plays more of an impact on fumbling is your awareness and can you get rid of the ball quickly and can you just play quarterback well? That's way more impactful to me than the size of the hands when he gets hit. Like, okay, yeah, you'd like him to have bigger hands, but if we're going off of deciding factors, I'm going to go with one that I think just matters a lot more.
No, completely. I mean, if you want just evidence with Daniel Jones, that's what you need to know in terms of like the hand size correlating the fumbles. Is that pretty much it on the QBs? Because there's a lot other stuff that happened at the combine. How everyone was fucking insanely fast.
I'm gonna go on like a tiny mini rant here.
Go ahead.
I don't understand why we're still relying on like people with like clocks doing the 40-yard dash and everything. Like you have GPS timing. You can literally cut it down frame by frame and measure how fast players
are you about to refer to Olave's official or first unofficial time compared to what it actually was?
I just think it's what the people are comfortable with. That's just the way that they've been doing it. That's the way that they do things. So it's easy, it's quick.
It's just not accurate, though. That's the
thing. I agree. I completely agree. I would probably hire a team to actually break it down frame by frame to give me the most accurate times. And to be honest, aren't they doing that with the players during the games now?
Yeah, they'll have Jonathan Taylor hit a top speed of 22 miles per hour on this run.
Yeah, I think I've heard that teams are doing that. I want that over the stopwatch times. Oh wait, he's going across the line now. You're not even at the line. You're up in the bleachers way away, just trying to gauge it. I think he goes there. Bang.
Well, there's the story about how Cooper Kupp was pretty slow in the 40-yard dash in his combine, and the Rams were celebrating that because they knew he would fall down the charts. When meanwhile they had him GPS tested on the field when he was in college, and they knew that he was actually one of the top quickest wide receivers in the draft. So it's why what are we doing? Why not just upgrade to this? So where that comes into play though here is with Breece Hall, who ran an unofficial 4.44 40. I don't know what it officially came out to, but then you put side by side with Jonathan Taylor, who also ran about that time, and it's Jonathan Taylor is clearly ahead of Breece Hall when they do the splits. You can compare these players to players in their draft class, which I saw Lance Zierlein saying, who we've talked about before. But if you're comparing them to previous classes, all these guys are slightly inflated in terms of their, combine times.
Yeah, I mean, the one other thing I'll say, because I was hearing that it was just a fast track that take the times, add half a second to it, and that's probably a little bit more realistic than previous classes. One thing I will say, and especially out of the big guys, is that the 40-yard dash training, I don't really think that's a narrative. I think that's definitely true. I look at the 40-yard dashes, and I feel like I'm seeing a lot better form from the runners. I feel like I'm looking at more. Maybe there's more track players playing football nowadays, but they're definitely the specialized training or whatever the fuck the players are doing is helping out the 40 times from a form and running perspective. They look a lot more natural running these 40s.
I can believe that. I don't know. It's just, I think we say it every year. Too much stock gets put in the 40.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's a no. I had 140 that mattered this year, and that was Garrett Wilson's. That's the only 40-yard dash I really cared about. Yeah, well,
I'm surprised that was
so. Here's the thing: is that for tier 1 prospects, the cream of the crop, the shining gems. If I think that they're that on film, I need to see it as well in testing, because tier 1 prospects have to check every box basically. If then you're not a tier 1 prospect, super early first round, I don't care. And that's what happened. Garrett Wilson, to me, he weighed in too light. Didn't break the combine record basically to get that speed score high enough. So now I have him as a tier 2 guy, which is you bump from a super early first to a mid early first. Not a huge knock, but
I mean, for me, the one guy I was kind of most interested to see was Treylon Burks, because I kind of feel I don't know. I feel more comfortable knowing how Wilson's speed will translate rather than Burks.
Well, Burks is just way bigger though. He's 225 moving. All right. Well, I think the one that mattered to me was Kyren Williams.
Guys,
Kyren Williams.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be.
This one surprised me.
Yeah.
It really did.
Yeah.
When this number came back, I was I felt bad for him because I think his stock has now fallen way down NFL draft boards.
Does anyone remember the exact time he had?
I think it was
I
in the
can pull it up
4
real quick.
7s. It was 4 7s.
Yeah, Joe Herbert just said 10-yard split is tied to NFL
I'd
success
agree.
more than 40. I completely
No, I
agree.
agree.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
I'm
everyone.
pulling up. I have his relative athletic score
4.65.
up here.
4.65.
4.65, 32-inch vert,
Oh, that's
average
a lot of red.
broad. I mean, he weighed in light, which is unfortunate at 194. Like,
Yikes.
He got a relative athletic score of a 1.75.
yeah, not what you want to see.
Put some respect. It was 1.76.
I was joking around with JT. I was saying that
Asshole.
my early fourth/late third in the rookie draft might have actually been too high on him.
I know. Yeah, I thought we were, maybe a little too far from consensus, and our hate's not the right word, but our fading of Kyren Williams. But then, like, Frank was more extreme than me. But at this point, I don't know where he's going.
Yeah, I was high on Kyren Williams. I was probably the Kyren Williams, fan of the group, and
Yeah.
to see that number and all the other tests come back as they did, I thought he looked a lot better on film than he tested, which is
Oh, I forgot, guys. I'm so sorry, but this is completely separate. My boy Seth Williams is going to eat in Denver with Russell Wilson.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I hope he doesn't.
I meant to lead the show off with that. I meant to lead the show off with that, and I forgot. Oh my god. Big miss by me.
Who's
Big
Denver's
miss by
backup
me.
quarterback?
I don't know, but I'm
saving.
saving Jake from his sad Kyren Williams takes now, because it's looking like he's gonna be. He's going to be a later round pick in the NFL draft at this point. If
he's like the Seth Williams of running backs.
So moving on. I guess another underwhelming player that came out of the combine was David Bell. He just wasn't athletic. People are comping him now to like Keenan Allen and DeAndre Hopkins, because they also were not athletic. Although it was rumored that Keenan Allen was hurt during his combine. To me, I just think it's like, I didn't expect him to be crazy athletic, and I'm really not pushing off David Bell. He's clearly my fourth receiver, which I think is much different than most people. I think most people have now slotted him down.
Well, who's your third now?
So my top four is Burks, London, Wilson, Bell. Are my top four.
Oh, you had Bell ahead of Wilson. Oh my, I completely forgot.
No, I had him, I think, fourth, but I had him, like, you could have tossed it up there. Now it's just it's a very clearly top. I think everyone in the top four has now separated themselves for me, and now I have a clear 1, 2, 3, 4 in terms of wide receivers. Whoa. Are we talking about? Let me finish about David Bell real quick. To me, hold on. Let me finish about David Bell first, and then we'll get into. I think you're going to talk about Jake London.
No, I was going to talk about George Pickens. Actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I knew it.
Yeah. All right. So David Bell, like, he came in, like, he's actually, like, good size to me. He's over 6 feet. He's 212. Like, that's good size. It's just. He ran a 4.65 40, which not what you want to see for a wide receiver. His shuttle and 3 cone also weren't great. I just think as long as he still goes in the top 3 rounds, his production in college, I'm still taking him.
If it's bottom of the third,
yeah, you're starting to lose me. But
like if it's beginning of the third, you can sell me on that. But if he goes, if
he's in the 4th round and stuff, I'm writing him off. But yeah, Jake's boy George Pickens did something entirely different, where he separated himself in a good way.
Yeah, George Pickens actually had a fantastic combine from my perspective. He ran, a high 4 or low 4.5s, which is great for a guy that's 6'3", over 210. I think he weighed in at. So overall, I think it was big for him to show teams that he's healthy, and he's back to being, ready to play football. Obviously, he played in the national championship game, but he didn't play the rest of the season. And on top of that, he's showing people that even at his size, he is a very athletic man and a very good football player that I think is going to get probably 2nd-round draft capital. At this point, I think he's creeping up on that 1st round of the rookie drafts here.
Yeah,
I
that's
have
going
no
to be the
problem putting him
interesting
there
thing for me
at this point.
is he going to creep into the first round? I've seen mocks where he's going mid first. I've seen mocks where he's going way down. So
Moving
I don't
down.
know.
Yeah, what's
How is
moving
he
him
moving
down
down?
at this point?
Dude,
Who's
he's
moving
just
him
I'm
down at
just
this
saying he's
point?
all over the place in mocks that I've seen.
He is.
I mean, he's not first round every mock.
I
You
mean,
can't
my-
say
No.
that.
What is it? I don't think necessarily the combine moved him down. I think Frank just means like there's like a wide range of how people are ranking Pickens.
Yeah,
right
no,
now.
the combine didn't move him down.
My concern
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Pickens is the same still though, where it's like I brought it up when we were watching the film with him. It's just he catches the ball and then he doesn't really seem to do much with it. Like he's able to get nice contested catches and everything, but you're never really seeing him get those yards after the catch, which I'd really want to see from a receiver if I'm taking him that high. But once, even with David Bell, there starts to get question marks. I think after those top three of London, Burks, Wilson for me, I start to question more and more about these players and feel definitely worse than I would about like the fourth or fifth receiver in the previous few classes.
I don't know. To me,
You
I
guys-
think having Pickens as a wide receiver 4, if you can get him at that point, in
I think
rookie
you
drafts,
almost definitely can. Like I don't think anyone's taking him over Wilson, London, or Burks, even though Wilson seemed to be a little undersized.
No, there's no way he's gonna get drafted ahead
Yeah.
of those three.
I mean, I think obviously it'll happen in some rookie drafts. I don't think it'll be the consensus by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think Pickens is a guy that's, because of his build and because of the way he tested, and even just he's had a lot of hype on him from high school. He was a 5-star recruit, went to Georgia, big time, big name going to Georgia, big name at Georgia, and now he's testing well at the combine. And I think there's some people that in some drafts will take him over those guys. Like I said, I don't think it'll be consensus, but I don't think it's necessarily the wrong move.
Okay,
I really like-
where would you have George Pickens in relation to like Rashad Bateman, Chase Claypool, Amari Cooper, and Mike Williams? Like that
When they
tier
came
of
out?
receivers. No, right now in Dynasty.
Right now.
I have Pickens over those guys. I
You
think
have Pickens.
is the-
So yeah, then
Wait,
you're
wait,
Pickens-
definitely
I-
thinking he's a
I
first
think
round
Pickens-
player.
I think Pickens is the real deal. I think as long as he gets round 2 draft capital in the NFL, he's going to be a stud in the NFL. And I think at this
What were
point,
the first two receivers you named again? It was Claypool and
Bateman,
who?
Claypool.
I could see Pickens over Pickens and Bateman. I'm taking Claypool over both of them though.
I think the only reason you see Pickens fall out of the first couple of rounds is concerns about health or something. Like I think he's kind of a lock at this point to be top 2 rounds.
right. So that's why I think I like him a lot. I think he's going to start moving up draft boards, and I think you're going to have to see the ADP on him go pretty high. I think his ADPs end up going to be probably around 108, 109, up in there and potentially even higher in 1 QB leagues.
All right, let's move on then to someone who I'd say is probably getting to be one of the more controversial players in this draft, and it's Isaiah Spiller. People have him all over the board. Frank's got him relatively low. I have him. I think Lounis has him higher than me if we're talking in terms of the podcast group where we have Isaiah Spiller. I'm pulling up his rankings on Keep Trade Cut because we already have Breece Hall as running back 6 on Keep Trade Cut.
That's absurd.
And then the next
makes the trade I brought up. So pretty much to people watching, there was a league I was in where there was a trade for it was Nick Chubb and 112 for Breece Hall to give you guys an idea of what his perceived value is already at. And Keep Trade Cut already has him RB6. Which I just kind of found crazy that like he's already like people are like, okay.
Dude, Joe Herbert saying some interesting stuff here. Burks had awful combine outside of his 40. 3-cone, vertical, broad jump were all really bad. Only about 5% of receivers his size are successful with those combine numbers.
I'm questioning those stats because if we're talking his size, like, are we grouping AJ Brown, DK Metcalf in there? Like, and are you considering draft capital? Because Treylon Burks is going to be a first-round pick.
Yeah,
at that size. So now
he's gonna be probably.
So now you limit his comps to N'Keal Harry, which obviously isn't great. But then it's like AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Julio Jones, I think would be considered in
AJ Green.
AJ Green. And at that point, I find that hard to believe that only 5% draft capital cannot be considered in that. Because if we're talking draft capital, like I forget what it is, however percent of
I'm sure there's
in the first round.
I'm sure there's a ton of wide receivers that are 6'3", 210 pounds that went in the 6th round that ran a decent 40.
Bigger than that, yeah.
Yeah, tough.
I'm coming up my voice out. Kellen Burks is 225.
Skull Dynasty said he'd have Bateman over all those receivers. Bateman or Pickens? That's an honest. That's a good debate to me. I think Bateman's definitely the consensus answer.
Bateman versus Pickens. That's tough.
Yeah, I'm not trading.
That's
Bateman
a tough
for
choice.
Pickens.
I'll take Elijah Moore over both.
That's just a different conversation.
I'm
taking Jalen Waddle over all.
No.
I'm going to take Jamar Chase over anybody.
Well, no, because he was a difference. It was Waddle was like a late first to most people, and then it was like the battle between Elijah Moore and Bateman for like, who's that top 2nd round receiver?
Okay, I see what you're talking about. I just that all goes back to what I was saying earlier, though. I feel way more comfortable about the previous years.
For sure.
2020.
Yeah.
Well, I think last year was a little different because there was like a consensus 11 players that was like, you knew those 11 players were going. It was just depending on the order.
Yeah.
And you would have some, I mean, there was a lot of like, okay, just kind of pick your poison type of things. Like, I mean, there were drafts where Najee Harris would go like number 2, and then there were drafts where he would go 7th in Superflex, right? Like, so it was just crazy. This draft, I think, is a little bit different in that the beginning, okay, top 4 or 5, we kind of know, and then the back end, it's like, well, fucking Fugazi,
We've seen a lot of Fugazi this past few days with the cap rearranging for everyone. And interested to see where it lands.
All right, other combine stuff. Apparently, Isaiah Spiller was underwhelming in drills. I didn't see the drills that he participated in. I don't really care about drills for running backs, but you're also not going to find much Spiller love from me.
Well,
it's really tough to really gauge these drills that the running backs did. They're running routes against nobody. They're running, they're not doing anything. They're doing the classic air handoff. Great.
Yeah, thanks. Like juking out some pads, like.
Yeah, like that doesn't help.
Also, real quick, there was a report that his agent apparently said that he was doing some of the workouts through an injury.
He's supposed to be doing.
That's what everyone says when they have a bad combine. So.
I mean, to be honest, though, if he was gonna run like a 4.55 on a fast track, like that was a super smart move. Because I mean, we saw.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest, Kyren Williams, it was the other parts of his workout than the 40 time that kind of concerned me more. But that 4.65 was like, because everyone's adding like half a second, all of a sudden that looks horrible, right? Like,
yeah.
Well,
that was bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Spiller apparently, according to Texas A&M, can run a 4.49. We'll see if that's the case. I'm sure there'll be a small mini pro day boost in the time, but
there's plays we have documented plays. Bruce Matson tweeted out at Metric Scout a player of Isaiah Spiller running against Arkansas where GPS was tracked at 21 miles per hour, which that's fast. Like, I don't care what the combine is, game speed, 21 miles per hour. Like, that's definitely.
Who's that for? You said
running back Isaiah Spiller against
Isaiah
Arkansas.
Spiller.
Yeah, I think he's fast enough. Like,
I think his speed is fine.
Yeah, I don't have any issues at that point.
Either Christian Watson, crazy
he
combine
tested off the charts. I did not expect that at all. I know he looked great at the Senior Bowl and stuff, and people were hyping him up, but I did not expect those stats to be that good.
Yeah, he's been doing nothing but raise his stock this offseason.
Yeah, I'm so mixed on him because he actually, like, I get so skeptical when we have players come out of nowhere. Like, he was with Trey Lance at North Dakota. Crazy athletic testing at the combine. Was actually super productive when he was with North Dakota. Was crazy after the catch. But it is like, he went to North Dakota, so you got the questions there. It's looking like he's getting early round 2 draft capital right now is what he's getting mocked around.
In the
I don't
NFL
know, like,
draft, or 'cause
yeah,
I know
and
that's where.
NFL
Okay, because
draft.
he's also going. I saw like he's going early second. It seems like in Superflex
I
rookie
think
mocks.
he goes moon if he gets drafted to the 49ers and paired back with Trey Lance, I think.
I mean, I
No,
think he
I
goes
was about
very
to say, I
early
saw people
second.
taking. Do you want to talk about frustrating? Can you imagine being an Ayuk owner over like the whole past year? You finally get to start to see like some production at the end of the season. You know Debo's role is solidified, so people who have Debo don't need to worry about that. He is the offense, but then
I mean,
like
dude,
you just.
are the 49ers really going to draft a receiver?
I mean, who would have thought the Cowboys were going to draft CD Lamb when they did? Amari Cooper and Gallup had just both had 1,000-yard seasons.
Yeah, I just think that they. I don't know. It just feels weird to me. I feel like there's other areas that they could address that
The Cowboys
make
did, too.
sense.
They're the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
defense
you
in the
can
NFL.
argue that CD Lamb at 17 was easily the best player on the board. I mean, he was a guy that a lot of people had over Judy, who went like 5 picks before.
That's fair on value,
Yeah.
but they did end up having like worse historical defense, pass defense.
You know, no one's saying that Christian Watson at the early second is like the biggest steal of all time as of right now.
That's fair.
I'm so split. Like I'm trying not to buy into it, but I think I like Watson a decent amount. Now, if we're taking him in the top 4 wide receivers, well, that's where I.
Draft capital is going to be
I'm
so
drawing
telling
the
for me
line.
with him.
But
The thing is that I think even if he goes early second, okay, maybe that bumps him up around to like 112. But I think for the most part, he's gonna be in that range. As of right now, I think draft capital could hurt him more than help him. But if he goes in the first round, that's different. But to me, I think he's kind of locked into that late first, early second. There's really nothing he can do to jump. I think the top 4, because I'm gonna say that Jameson Williams is gonna go above him, and then he's gonna be in that mix with Jahan Dotson, with Olave, who those guys have a good chance of having better draft capital than him. Maybe not crazy, but like they might be in the
Olave
first
does.
or right around the early second with him if he's going early second. So you have to make that decision, like, okay, against the quarterbacks, and then like those other receivers around him, and then like a Rashad White, I guess, is the other running back around him right now. But I don't think he's gonna like. How much farther up can he go? He went from 3rd round to early second, and now he's gonna go from early second to mid first if he's an early second round pick. No, I don't see it.
I was about to ask you guys as of right now how you felt between him and Dotson, because that was really going to be the
Give me
person.
Dotson.
Yeah.
So you're at Dotson.
I want Christian Watson.
I
just don't
think
like
Jahan.
How tall
Listen,
is Christian Watson again? Isn't he like 6'5"?
Yeah, the thing is that
6'5".
dude, Dotson to me is just a really solid receiver.
He is.
Great pedigree. To me, obviously Christian Watson checks a lot of boxes, but outside of the physical profile, I think that Jahan Dotson is a much stronger receiver prospect than he's getting credit for.
Real quick,
Yeah.
Skull Dynasty.
I was just about to
with
bring
one
it
of
up.
the worst disses you could say on this podcast, calling him Denzel Mims.
I have been
Well,
seeing that because
I've seen it too.
similar rise. I don't like the comp though.
I think it's
I like
fair in
Christian
terms
Watson
of
more
what
than I
like.
like Mims coming out.
I think it's fair in terms of like, oh, he's like super athletic and he's gonna go higher than people thought. I just think when you get to that range of wide receivers, I think all of them like scare me. Like I really like Justin Ross, but he's got his medical issues and everything. I don't really like Olave. I don't really like Dotson. Like all these receivers have big question marks in that range. So
Skyy Moore.
I kind of
Skyy Moore is one of
do we
my
want
favorite ones.
do we want to move to Skyy Moore? Because I also
he's in that similar range of receivers.
I've been trying to limit myself into buying into Christian Watson. I've been limiting myself buying into Christian Watson. I'm so in on Skyy Moore at this point.
Oh, I love Skyy Moore.
I love Skyy Moore. I would take Skyy Moore over Christian Watson. I think
that's fair.
He might be a top 6. I think when I sent you guys my rankings earlier, I think he's like my 6th wide receiver.
Yeah, how I'm feeling more and more about Skyy Moore is kind of similar to how I was seeing a lot when I started really watching Elijah Moore's film over the past year and everything. Like how I was just he had every corner fucking like just on like their back heels, praying to keep up with them off the line. I think Elijah Moore was a little bit better than Skyy Moore, but Skyy Moore's as good as anyone in this draft at it, besides maybe Wilson.
I agree with that. I think the reason Elijah Moore was better, though, is that I think that Elijah Moore at the top of his routes had better separation than Skyy Moore.
I agree with the top of the routes. I more mean like off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you can just see highlights of Skyy Moore. We showed one against Pittsburgh where he's putting people on the ground with his releases. On those RPO glances, he was nasty. I like Skyy Moore a lot, too. I was just hoping that his ADP would stay more towards the back of the second, so I could nab Dotson in the middle of the second, then the back, turn around, get Skyy Moore too.
You might be able to get Dotson at the back of the second at this point, though.
Listen, if we could swap those two, I'm down. But those are two guys that I've been targeting in the second round.
I was gonna say, what if Dotson ends up like kind of like this year's Tony? Because a lot of mock draft people have Dotson going late first in actual NFL draft, and then if he just
I'll take it. If he's going in the middle of the second, I like it a lot. But yeah, Skyy Moore tested well. He's been getting a lot of hype. We'll see if that holds. He's someone that definitely has room to move up on rookie draft boards. If he goes like early second to a team, because Skyy Moore, from an NFL perspective, which this will drive up his rookie if he gets his draft capital, is that type of receiver where come that early middle part of the second round, like pick 40 to 45, let's say you're a team like the Jets, and you have those two early first round picks, and you decide, or the Falcons who have those 2 seconds, we're not going to take a receiver at that top part of the draft. We'll let someone else take it. And then we come around the second. We don't need a number one. We have our guy, right? The Jets have some receivers. The Falcons have a Kyle Pitts. We just need a number 2, right? A dude who can play on the outside and in the slot, who can be that. That's why I kind of copped him to a smaller Adam Thielen. He's not going to necessarily wow the shit out of you, but he could be a really consistent receiver who's kind of good underneath in the red zone, but not the biggest and greatest vertical threat.
Skyy Moore and Kyle Pitts in the same offense would be so much fun.
Yeah, that'd be nice, dude. That'd be nice.
Offense. That'd be a very nice offense.
Is he good after the catch, Skyy Moore? I didn't see anything on film.
He is.
He's all right.
He's
good. He's not Treylon Burks, but he's good.
Yeah, I was just wondering what
for his size, he's insanely good after the catch. When considering he's 5'10".
Because I thought he was decent after the catch, but I don't think he's necessarily like it. Because I that's what everyone's assuming that Arthur Smith, aka Fat Nicolas Cage, is going to want to do with that offense, is kind of recreate.
I think he's good after the catch.
He's comparable to the likes of Rashad Bateman, Jahan Dotson, a little better than Ross, a little worse than DJ Moore.
Are you talking about his measurables?
Okay, so he's pretty good. Because DJ Moore was a big yak guy.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, last guy, Alec Pierce tested very well, the wide receiver out of Cincinnati. Definitely turned some heads. I saw there's like a small little niche community of people who are really banging the Alex Pierce drum. And
I'm hopping on the bandwagon. Officially.
Are you really? Where are you taking him at?
I saw someone put him in their tier 1 wide receivers.
Okay.
Like top 4 or 5.
Whoa. Okay, maybe I'm not on the bandwagon.
Where would you want to land him in rookie drafts, Lounis?
Okay. So obviously, hold on, pulling time up. Draft capital is gonna be a huge part of this, but I'd always liked because I noticed him a lot when I was watching Ritter at Cincy. He would always just stick out. He has the size you're looking for a typical outside, like number 1 receiver. And I've seen the thing that kind of made me more of a believer after his test time. I started looking at where NFL insiders kind of have him going draft and everything. And people are saying he's like a near lock to be a day two pick, and possibly in like that end of second, early third range in the NFL draft, which if he does, I think he falls into like that mid-second rookie draft conversation. And maybe that's kind of a bullshit hopping on the bandwagon because it's not tier 1. I didn't think people were being that high on him.
No, dude, that's like one guy that's got him tier 1.
Okay. I was gonna say that's absolutely insane.
Mock to the mid-second.
He's got similar concerns in with Pickens though in terms of yards after the catch. He's not great after the catch.
Yeah, he's a little interesting. I watched Jerome Ford this week, so I was watching some of the Cincinnati offense, and Cincinnati offense was like a little college-y. I mean, obviously the RPOs are really taken into the NFL, but I just don't think you're going to be able to use him in the exact same role that Cincinnati used him in at the NFL. But he is an interesting dude. I just think that the price is going to be a little bit too expensive for me right now.
Did you see in his the RAS athletic score from 1987? He's in the top 100 out of all receivers, which is over 2,500. I think it's like 90 something out of 2,500 of all athletic scores that have been recorded for receivers.
Yeah,
Which is
but
stupid high. It was like 9.6 or something.
I agree with whatever Frank's about to say.
the one thing that concerns me about that though is like if you're a super beast athlete, like why aren't you going in the first round?
I mean, if he goes
Like-
if he goes in the second round, I'd be pretty satisfied with that. If he doesn't go second round, I'm concerned. But if he goes second round, I'm okay with that.
I mean, I'm just thinking, like, no one's ever. There probably are people that thought of that, but I feel like it doesn't get mentioned a lot. You know, like
I guess that's the same argument you can use against DK Metcalf.
yeah, true.
Yeah.
That was the period of time where people were real 3-cone truthers.
Yeah.
If you remember.
Well,
That was like,
yeah.
Joe Herbert put
3-cone
in
was everything.
Treylon Burks' 3-cone earlier and said it was awful. But
And Pickens
Treylon Burks had it
also,
better than DK.
that is wait. Joe Herbert did say Skyy Moore does have huge hands. I remember I saw that. He's got
Yeah.
like 10.5-inch claws out there.
Well,
apparently.
did you see Treylon Burks said he wore like 4XL gloves and then like his hand size
Absolutely
wasn't
absurd.
Yeah, his hand size was like a little above average, but it was not 4XL glove hand size. That's just a random observation. I just think Alec Pierce, when we're talking about that second, maybe even early third round dynasty draft, Superflex dynasty draft, it's very much going to be a round of get your guys. That's all that round is going to be.
Yeah.
There are going to be the Franks of the world who like Dotson, going to be the Watson truthers, Alec Pierce, Olave, Jakes, Pickens. Well, Pickens might be a first rounder at this point, but there's so many of these wide receivers that like there's going to be factions of people and all the little clans running around being like Jahan Dotson, wide receiver 4, blah blah blah. I think it's going to be a funny second round. I think you could make a lot of value if you just move around the second round if you kind of understand your league needs. Up or down.
That's
Yeah, I
1,000% true. Especially this draft, knowing who people ahead of you in the next maybe like 5-6 picks ahead of you who they like, because it's really gonna be a preference thing at that point. Once you get to like that mid-second round range.
All right, are we good to get to our last segment?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, breaking down prospects. Do we want to kick off with Zamir White or Jerome
Yeah,
Ford?
that's the interesting one. Should we go with Zamir White or Jerome Ford?
I like
very
both
different.
of these guys. So.
I have different opinions on either of them.
Jake, how about you take it? Who do you want to talk about?
Let's take Zamir White, I guess.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I think he's a guy here that kind of obviously Georgia's a very good running football team and they used him a lot. But I think people get lost in the fact that like they also had what's the other Georgia running back? They had James Cook and who actually looked pretty good himself at the combine. They had another running back at Georgia. They used a variety of running backs, and I think people forget how good this Georgia, running offense was, and they tend to. Yeah, I mean that's what they're going to say. They're going to say it was the O-line, but then you look back and you see Sony Michel, Nick Chubb. They all did the same thing, and they all transitioned very well to the NFL. And I think Zamir White's going to be another one of those guys that's maybe not as good as Nick Chubb, but I think he could definitely be similar type of guy to Sony Michel here, and just fit an offense very nice. And I don't know if he'll ever be a superstar in fantasy, but I do think he's a guy that's going to carve out a nice role in the backfield for sure.
Yeah, my analysis on Zamir White, I kind of felt like, okay, I see the upside, right? This guy's a phenomenal athlete, 5-star prospect, one of the top running back prospects. And he has a lot of tools for a running back. But at the same time, there are a couple flaws that I just really don't like from a fantasy perspective. The first is that I watched 3 games. He didn't catch a single football. He didn't catch one. He was thrown to once and he dropped it, right? Like he's going to offer you essentially nothing in the passing game, right? And he's not comfortable catching the football either. So I don't know why an NFL team would want to come in there. But at the same time, for his role of being a primarily, hey, we're going to take this guy and shove it up the gut, inside zone, power, gap runs up the middle. I mean, he's good at that, right? He has really good pad level. He can get skinny through the hole there. And that's what he did at Georgia. 15 times, 13 times, 14 times a game. They're saying, okay, we need to run the ball up the middle and establish the run. He's that kind of guy. And he's super athletic. So, like, if he gets a crease, he can take it to the house. But how does that translate to fantasy, right? Like, what is his role going to be? What is the situation going to be? Because I can see him going into the NFL and a team really liking his skill set and almost being like a Damian Harris, right? Where he's going to get a good amount of touchdowns. He's going to get that 15 touches, and that's all he needs to be your RB2. And what, you pick him up late second, maybe third round of the rookie draft, probably late second, mid second. That's a good pick. That's a fine pick. He doesn't have the upside of the RB1, but he's a good player. But I could also see like him kind of being like a Malcolm Brown, I guess.
The thing that people have combated the what you mentioned, because he didn't do much receiving work with him, like being able to stay on the field more. The common argument I've seen back, and I haven't watched enough of his pass protection to be able to confirm this myself. I'm just seeing what I've seen being the retort, is that he's an extremely good pass running back. I haven't watched too much
White?
of his...
See, I don't agree with that. I think that he's like very meh.
I'm just saying what I've seen is the common review. I haven't watched his pass protection
so
stats
the
that much. I've only seen his rushes.
First off, I'm never really going to make Pass Pro my make or break on a running back, because I think that's one thing you could definitely improve in, and B, it's like I'd rather him just be a good receiver and than them throw him the fucking ball. Like, I ain't getting points for blocking, so him being a good Pass Pro, it doesn't do much for me.
All right, I think so. He was rumored to have been coming out last year. Like, there's still talks about Zamir White coming out last year. Then he had his knee injury, and he decided to stay back here. Last year, I had him as like, I think either running back 4 or 5. I forget where. It was one of the two. So you would think I'd probably drop him down for staying a year, but it's just been a war of attrition at this point with all the other running backs. And so I think I agree with Joe Herbert, and I also have him as my running back 4, but like, it is a very clear gap from running back 3 to 4 for me, where Kenneth Walker, some people have Isaiah Spiller, whatever, but I think those guys are very clearly solidified first rounders. Zamir White, I'm not taking until probably the near middle of the second round, depending on where he gets drafted, like what round I'm talking about, not exactly what place, what team. I could move him up a little bit, but it's hard for me to justify him anything more than like an early second. So I have him as running back 4, pretty close with Brian Robinson.
I have him as my RB5 behind both Isaiah Spiller and Brian Robinson. I think once again, this is just all speculation, but I think he goes like middle to like middle late third. He has some upside to go earlier because of his athletics. Where do you think he goes in a rookie draft if he gets that kind of draft capital, and say he gets the most average situation you can get?
Honestly,
I mean, I think at that, I was thinking more mid-second. So after that, I mean, I think what's going to happen is what we've seen the past few years is right after the first round, there's that run at wide receiver from like 201 to like 204 of those guys that are like close to first round picks, not quite there. And those guys go immediately off the board in the second round, and then you get the rest. And I think Zamir White is one of these guys. Brian Robinson's another. I know you've been mentioning him. That is the best of the rest, and they're going to get that middle of that second round rookie draft capital here.
Yeah, so the one other thing that I don't like about Zamir White, and this is a little nitpicky because, I mean, the 3 games I watched was Florida, Alabama, and Clemson, which are all 3 really fucking good defenses. That forced missed tackle rate, I would have liked to have been a little higher at 0.28, 28% of his carries. And it's not just the number that I'm concerned about. It was almost the way he did it. I thought that he, like, when he was getting going downhill and he had a little bit of momentum worked up, or it was contact in the backfield, one of his offensive linemen got blown up or someone would just be free, I thought he was fine and he could make guys miss. But at the second level, I would have liked to see him deal with secondary and second level players a little bit better, given his athletic ability. You just expected a little bit more, but I'm not going to necessarily kill him for that. I just don't think that he's going to be going late enough for me to pull the trigger on him in a lot of drafts, unless I think that he's going to go in a landing spot, that he's getting that consistent amount of workload, probably like a not necessarily gap heavy, but I want him to be in that role where they're saying, hey, we're just going to run you up the gut. And our runs are designed here to get 4 or 5 yards, have you one-on-one with a linebacker and see if you can make a miss. If he gets like 15, 14 of those types of carries, I think that I can get into him. But I think the problem is that I just like Brian Robinson a little bit more. I think Brian Robinson offers you a little bit more. And to me, Isaiah Spiller is kind of in that category of running backs, but he's going way earlier. So
I kind of lean agreeing with you. It's like I don't dislike him at all. I think he can be a pretty good running back, but I can just kind of already tell by like the perception of him that I've seen online everywhere that he's going to go earlier than what I'd want to draft him. So at that point, I would just let someone else take him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going through the last bit of my notes here. Really good pad level. Back to his pass pro, I guess. I think the problem with his pass pro, he can like take on linebackers and he can hit people. Like, it's not that he's not physical enough. I just think that his lateral movement is pretty dog shit. And especially when you get to these NFL linebackers and D linemen, they're just so ridiculously bendy that's where he's really going to struggle to me. And he's a leaner on his pass blocking. Yeah, good. The scheme and the workload and his job wasn't really like a role where he had a ton of pressure put on him in that Georgia run game. It's not like he was asked to go out there and be like the next Adrian Peterson or anything. There was a lot of big ass holes and whatnot. It's a good Georgia run blocking offensive line. Yeah, I think that's really it. Anything else to add on Mr. White?
Nothing from me. So why don't we move on to the other prospect that we're breaking down today, Jerome Ford.
All right, I'm going to take this one here, Jake. And this might be another one of the close your ears is because you were saying earlier that you like Jerome Ford.
I am
I don't love him, but I do
what
think
you're
he's
saying.
like
here.
Oh man, are you gonna shit on him?
I'm liking what
A little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna shit on him a little bit. To me, this is a guy that I think that he's like Jake Funk last year. What is he gonna go 7th round undrafted?
Cool.
I really don't see a world where he's going anywhere around day 2, which is like where ideally the latest you want your running backs to go, or like early day 3. I think that he's got a better chance of going undrafted than going there. I think the pros, let's get into the pros, right? Good athlete. There's been no concerns from me there. And I wish I coined this, but this is from Lance Zierlein's scouting report that I read after I made mine, was he's a better athlete than he is running back. And that is entirely true. He's just a better athlete than running back. He was not asked to do really anything difficult in that Cincinnati scheme. They basically put all the pressure of the decisions of their offense on Desmond Ridder. Because they're just, the run scheme was super simple, right? All the runs, he was generally getting favorable leverage because they're doing an RPO or some sort of zone read with Ridder. And so when he gets the football, it's like, okay, it's either a 3rd or 4th and short or some sort of gimmicky thing to where we can get a numbers advantage, which like isn't the worst. But then we get into the other stuff where it's like, okay, well, he's easily got the lowest force miss tackle rate of any of the running backs this year at 13%, which is just too low. His vision is like, okay, it's nothing terrible, but there's a couple plays where you have your head scratching a little bit. He doesn't have a tackle evading move that I think he can rely on. Like he can hit people and he can get yards after contact that way, but he doesn't make defenders miss on any level of the field, really. And then the real kicker to compound that is that I think he really struggles with interior pressure or free rushers on these runs. So it's like I have a runner that is really raw. His cutting is clunky, especially compared to how well he timed. Okay, like where does this come to fantasy? How the hell does he even get on the field? Like, okay, I think he's gonna go into the league. Let's say he gets drafted round 7. He's gonna be like the 3rd running back on the depth chart. I probably need someone to get hurt or some really good development as a runner for Jerome Ford. I don't really see it. And right now I think he's going way too early in rookie mocks.
Where is he going right now in rookie mocks around?
I think in the 3rd round I've seen him go generally.
If it's late 3rd, I don't hate it, but I'm probably not taking him in the early 3rd. I'm with you. I'm not. I know numbers wise he was productive in Cincinnati, but I think that was just more a result of the entire offense. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna let Jake go because I know Jake actually liked him, so I want some contrast.
I mean, yeah, I liked watching Cincinnati games. I liked watching Desmond Ritter and Alec Pierce. That offense as a whole was fun, and I liked watching him partake in the offense. But I think Frank makes a lot of good points. And when I said I liked him as a player. I don't really think necessarily he translates to an NFL running back as well. I think Frank covered a lot of what I was going to say, so I'm not going to double back on it. But I just think I think he's probably slightly better. I think than you think, Frank. I think he's probably going to, and I think he's still a day 3 pick, but I do think he gets drafted. I think best case scenario is a 4th round pick for him. Best case scenario.
Is he in your top 10 running backs in this class? So probably not.
Maybe like
I'll say maybe.
You might catch him on the back 9.
Yeah, 9 or 10 maybe.
I think he is.
You might catch
9 or 10 for me.
Yeah, he'd probably be 9 or 10 for me.
Yeah, you catch him on the back. It's whatever. At that point, like take if he's going to be a 4th round NFL pick, he's not going to be earlier than like a 4th round, a 3rd round pick. At that point, a lot of guys are dart throws. I don't hate it. I'd rather go other directions. But if you're talking a 4th or 5th round rookie draft pick, I don't think it's a horrible idea. But high draft capital, no.
Frank, I think you kind of went easy on Jerome Ford in terms of like you destroyed Tyler Allgeier and Kyren Williams.
Yeah, well, those guys were getting mocked way. I mean, dude, I'm saying he's going to be a 7th round pick. It's not like I'm saying it's all sunshine and roses out here.
Like, sold to be the best running back prospect of all time.
Yeah, but you got Jerome Ford below both these guys.
But like,
well, like we're comparing them to where like the
that's fair. That's me with Kadarius Toney. I wouldn't have if we're talking Kadarius Toney in the 3rd round.
The one thing that I have going for Jerome Ford though that is really interesting, and NFL teams will like this a lot, is that he did play very well against Alabama. I actually thought that was his best game that I watched of him was against
Revenge
Alabama.
Game, baby.
And the thing I liked about him in that game was that even though he showed a lot of the stuff that I mentioned in terms of what he struggled with, he did a good job reading the plays, and it's not like there was massive holes left, right, and center against that Alabama front. That's a good Alabama defense. And he was able to show that pop that he has on his hits against Alabama's like linebackers and secondary players, right? He was consistently getting those yards after contact, falling forward, driving his legs that you saw against the weaker competition and like the Tulanes and whatnot. So seeing that element of his game translated to the biggest stage against the best opponents was definitely something that was good. And that's why I think like he could get drafted in the 6th or 7th round because of a game like that. I think that might get him high enough on the board, and the physical tool set to get him on a team after the draft and not be an undrafted free agent. But I'm not going to be targeting this guy in my rookie drafts and for my dynasty teams.
I think if you're talking like just in terms of the player, like he's 215 and he ran like a 5.40.
I'll pull up his relative athletic score real quick.
I think that alone probably gets him drafted if what I just said was accurate. Hold on. He's 5'10", 210 pounds. So 210 is a nice size, like a average size, but also ran this says 4.46. I don't know how true.
Yeah, I'm seeing 4.46 here.
Okay,
5'10", 210, 31-inch vert,
nice.
or 31-inch vert, 9 foot 10-inch broad jump.
Nice size and fast to me means you're probably not much else behind.
Where did
I think you're 6 or 7.
Where did Jarrett Patterson get drafted?
He did.
Yeah,
surprise me.
He
surprised me though.
But Jarrett Patterson's also smaller.
Yeah, that's why Jarrett Patterson didn't get drafted.
I was gonna say I think he's gonna get drafted around where Jarrett Patterson got drafted.
Not good.
I think I'm back on my initial train.
He has like 15 pounds and he has like an inch or two.
Okay.
And 15 pounds on Jarrett Patterson.
So he could definitely be a guy that teams look at and say, okay, this is like for a day 3 guy, he's kind of got a clean canvas. He can catch the ball, he can block. It's not like he's amazing at either, but he can do it if you ask him to. You're not going to want to rely on that, but it's not necessarily something like that you're like, oh, I have to get this guy off the field if push comes to shove. But I don't really see consistent workload. And I think the other problem, I just don't think he's really going to get a good shot out the gate on an NFL team from the draft or UDFA or anything. I think it's going to be a long shot for Jerome Ford.
They'll probably have to make a team as a special teamer. Or like that's what teams might project him as.
Like Seth Williams.
Hey, I missed such a great opportunity. I meant to open with it. I forgot to open with it. I was going to be my lead off.
It's good that you didn't. It's good that you forgot.
It's better for you.
I'm so upset with myself. All right. But I think that wraps us up though, right? Anything else you guys wanted to
add? Free agency coming soon.
Oh, yeah, we were going to do Zaquandre White initially. We were going to add him on. A, we're a little bit out of time. And B, the cut-ups, there's only one cut-up I could find of Zaquandre White, which means that I have to go back and watch, like, the 2-hour VOD of the South Carolina games. So, like, it just takes a little bit longer to do the analysis on him. But we can probably hit him next week.
All right, cool. Not encouraging that there's only one cut-up of.
Yeah, they'll get released probably because like the guys who do it, and shout out the one dude that at least I like a lot is QPro88. You can follow him on Twitter, and he's with Dynasty Nerds and stuff. I'm pretty sure he's one of the guys that does the cut-ups there. So shout out QPro, you're a fucking saint. And all the other people that do it, like FF Astronauts and whatnot, those guys, shout out you guys. You guys are awesome. And whoever else does it, you're the real MVPs.
All right. Well, with that, season 2, episode 31, 3 and 20 Dynasty Podcast. Thank you everyone for listening.
We love you, chat.